All right. Breaking film and TV news that I recently heard that the new Archie movie was a live action Archie movie in the works with Universal Pictures with Phil Lord and Christopher Miller on the hell as producers. And I'm really excited for, and I think this has got a mixed feelings. And I have to tell you, this also the will be written by the everyone's favorite, least favorite comic book writer, and of course the comic book writer equivalent of Kathy Kennedy, Tom King. If you don't know what Tom King is, well, Jake Ali for Studio Jake had to say about this writer over that video on Vidcast about the DCU Supergirl movie had a name change.
For those of you who don't know, Tom King was the writer for Batman immediately following the DC Rebirth. He did the War of Jokes and Riddles, which was actually a pretty good run. I know it has a lot of people criticizing it, but I actually liked War of Jokes and Riddles, I will admit it. I also liked the stuff leading up to issue 50, where Batman was supposed to finally marry Catwoman. There was this really funny issue called Double Date, where Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle go on a double date with Clark Kent and Lois Lane, and the men and the women swap their clothes. I actually thought that that was really funny. So you see Bruce Wayne walking around in a Superman costume, and Clark Kent is dressed up as the Batman. It was actually a pretty clever issue. However, issue 50, the conclusion, the series goes off the rails. He does this whole City of Bane story arc where for some reason Thomas Wayne comes from a different world and then allies with Bane of all people, and he's trying to convince Bruce Wayne to give up being the Batman, and they have this battle, and it just, like I said, went off the rails really, really quickly. Then he went on to write a Mr. Miracle reboot, a Human Target reboot, where they turned Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, into some sort of, shall we say, a person who commits battery against women and even kills him off in that series. It was just really terrible. And he also did the infamous Heroes in Crisis, which was supposed to be another reboot to DC, but it was so unpopular. Now DC just pretends like it didn't even exist, especially after people saw what they did to Wally West in that show. I actually did.
Yeah, because hold on a second. I'm not sure that people care because yeah, that's the reason why the Tom King is become a douchebag writer, comic book writer, and or there's more.
Like I said, Tom King, he has gone completely off the rails. And after the way he treated artist Jai Lee, he should not be allowed anywhere near DC Comics, Marvel Studios, or Image Comics, or Dynamite Comics. Basically, no comic book company should allow this man to write. None of his series do well. They all end up being canceled prematurely, or he gets some sort of mini series opportunity like what he did when his run with Batman ended. Essentially, this guy is a terrible writer, is what I'm trying to say. Also, he's a former CIA operative, so that makes him a ex-Fed, so take that for what it is.
Anyway, yeah, that's the reason why the Tom King become the most least likable comic book writer of all time, unlike Kathy Kennedy or Boom DeMiro or something. But to me, I always know he's also the architect of the DC Studios with James Gunn and Peter Safran over Warner Brothers, because he had already adapted the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow comic into the movie, was directed by Greg Ribisi and stars Millie Alcock as Supergirl, using a cameo of the James Gunn Superman movie at the end. Spoilers! There's a spoiler alert! And of course, probably I know it's going to be, and I think this is also going to be starred Jason Momoa as Lobo, but I can't give you spoilers yet. But and also Tom Green is also the executive producer and co-writer of and the creator or maybe showrunner of the Lantern series, because I'm not sure that series is six on HBO or on HBO Max, but what do you know? This is DCU, not the dead universe that DCEU was pretty much known. But yeah, I think the Tom Cruise has become the least likable comic book writer. It's probably become the new comic book writer equivalent of Kathy Kennedy. But I think that I disagree. I respect Tom Cruise is a good writer, but he's not as good as a terror writer. I mean, Tom Cruise is a better writer than Jay Olivia because he had he had been working. He had to do a lot of DC stuff. Mostly working with the a filmmaker I really despise because he's a hack, Zack Snyder. But for me, I think that even not as good. He's did a lot of good comic book stuff, mostly from say like the that one Tom King one, like this the Batman one, and especially like this say the one Great Grayson comics. Like I think that I've never read the comics, but I would say this is not in me. I mean, Anthony Chabot was pretty much a huge comic book fan, especially Tom King was pretty much a mediocre writer. And yes, he's his ex-CIA officer, so take that as an insult. So yeah, I think Tom King was a not as good as a writer, but he was basically the comic book writer equivalent of Kathy Kennedy. And it's like remember that what you read the Tom King written comic was pretty much basically like Star Wars A Last Jedi, like from like by Ryan directed by Ryan Johnson, and I was like, hey. Imagine this DC comic in the vein of the Star Wars The Last Jedi. People comic sales are going to be a huge, and turns out that the comic sales are no point, and especially per that writer Tom King. So yeah, that's why Tom King is become the most likable comic book writer, and of course the comic book writer equivalent of Kevin Kennedy, and both the mayor of course. But I'm not sure that if you're not in love and live and read the book, like Kevin Kennedy disguised fired Gina Carano. He had filed a lawsuit and then later settled a few weeks ago. But I hope see why Tom King will adapt, especially in Lantern series from DC Studios, and of course Supergirl movie was coming next year. So, but I think Tom King was pretty much mediocre. Uh, a guy who's pretty known. He was basically a comic book. Like I said, he's a comic book writer equivalent of Kevin Kennedy. He's pretty much the part like not as good as a Jeff Johns, but he's becoming the most hated. But anyway, let's all right. Back where he wants to talk about. Oh yeah, the Archie movie. Okay. That's probably been recording from the Hollywood Reporter. So this is their first reporting instead of Deadline, by the way. So here he is. New Archie's movie set at Universal Pictures. Bioverse producers Phil Lowe and Christopher Miller on behind the studio pictured based on the Archie's comic books movie Archie, Vitica, and Betty and their friends. The feature adaptation of the Archie's comic books is in the works at Universal Pictures. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm pretty sure that Warner Brothers was originally was set to distribute the Archie movie because he had a good success with the CW series Riverdale and the Netflix series Chilly Adventures of Sabrina. Because I probably know these studios like Warner Brothers were convinced were related to the bigger brand. And even as probably know the Warner Brothers and Discovery split happening, that Warner Brothers decided not distribute due to reasons that since Hanna-Barbera was the parent company of Warner Brothers Discovery, was pretty animation studio, as we're probably going to end releasing for Warner Brothers because especially more apparent audience, like did with the success of the Bobby movie. However, it eventually, but it's that the studio excited, especially Supergirl DCU Supergirl movie over the subsidiary DC Studios has probably more than no Tom King was bringing architect of the DC studio. But however, Warner Brothers and mostly press and Multi Pictures president co-heads Michael DeLuca and Penn Abbey are not happy for the recent script of the Archie comics because a movie, like actually movie or animated, whatever, respond, hey, yeah, this script is too obvious. This is Warner Brothers, not the turn into Delu. This is our company, not DC Studios. Let's stop the other studios and said, and then they're talking to producers, Lauren Miller's response. You know what? Screw this. I won't stick with Universal, biatch. So yeah, and eventually it picked up by Universal. So yes, Warner Brothers has a no point got stock drop. Yes, including some box office success like Sinners, F1, Superman movie, and of course Weapons. But even the stock down, with even the Warner Brothers got a lot of financial troubles. But even the after but Universal after the success like Super Mario Brothers movie from Illumination, Oppenheimer was the first Christopher Nolan film from Universal, And of course, a year later was the first Wicked movie, and the sequel, Wicked for Good, was coming in 3 months. So, and I'm sure that movie's pretty, but still, I think they are playing Warner Brothers. If you would imagine that the relation, I even had it out that of the Archie comics related from Warner Brothers instead, but between on the Warner Brothers back in the day, between of the Hanna-Barbera cartoons and especially the live action shows like Riverdale and Chilly Adventures of Sabrina, very close to under Warner Bros. Property, but now, now it was in Universal hands. It might acquire the shows from Archie shows for from Warner Brothers, but even got in financial troubles for the company. But you can thank for Mr. Sasla for hating myself. Anyway, let's continue. Tom King, yes, the comic book writer equivalent of Kathy Kennedy, of course, would pen the script for the untitled Archie movie, with plot remain the details were the film remain under wraps. We are longtime friends of the Archie, Lyrical Betty and the gang on all of their editions. We heard Tom King's take on their classic material, we instantly thought it makes sense as an event movie for all audience, both love long fans and the new generation. We so excited to bring these beloved characters to the big screen. Laura Miller's in statement on today. Now, I already know this is for familiar with Laura Miller. He's a producer who wants to become familiar. Like he's responsible for movies like Colin the Meatballs anime movie, and then also the director of the Lego movies, the first one, and also director of the 21 Jump Street movies over Sony Pictures, and they're also responsible for the Spider-Man Spider-Verse movie over Marvel and Sony Pictures. And also he's already working and completed filming in next year's release of the Project Hail Mary, starring Ken himself, Ryan Gosling, and of course Sandra Hüller. Sandra Hüller. Yeah, Sandra Hüller. Yeah, it was. Yeah, he's German, but I'm using the German films lately, so ja, ich bin eine Thanksgiving. Anyway, Emma Watts. Really? Emma Watts will be produced the project at the bring it Lord to Lord and Miller. Yes, I know Emma Watts is a former Fox and Paramount executive, but also Emma Watts is also working on the different Warner Bros. Projects as on development, but Adares. The duo behind the Spider-Verse movies and early 21 Jump Street and the Lego movie, Archie Comics CEO and publisher John Goldwater will produce, while Universal Pictures' Britt Hindenmold and Christian Sun will oversee the film project for the studio. Um, Archie Comics, over the 85-year history, has sold over the 3 billion comics worldwide and retained the massive social media presence because of Riverdale and the Teeny Adventures of Sabrina series, of course, on between on CW and Netflix. The Jockey Gang debuted in the 1941's Pep Comics number 22, and the many of the publishing stories haul back to the idea of the small town American. Now, while the history of Archie has not had sales for the rival comic book giants Marvel and DC Studios, the property enjoys strong brand recognition thanks to the decades of the comics that be sold at the grocery stores checkout lines. Well, this is going to be industry one, and I know, like I said, this is not particularly was a Warner Brothers distribute film, produced film, but this is from Universal, and I think if you know, the Lower Mirror was where Hollywood with the last films like Stray, last 2 years ago with the Strays and Cocaine Bear, the cult classic favorite because he had directed by the girl who ruined Giant Angels a few years back, and as well as in the final posthumous performance with um, Ray Rolado, because he's also a supporting star in another film called The Substance, but unfortunately he's passed away, so he replaced the last minute by um, Danish Quaid. So that's really good. So I pretty know no idea that casting changes. So it's like, hey, there's an actor passed away. What are you doing now? Let's replace with the other the one actor you've seen in the movie called about White Earp and especially the one movie was about. And so Dennis Quaid was cast. So yeah, that's what we know. Anyway, if you've seen Dead Meat Kill Count videos, but you know the rest. Anyway, But again, I'm not sure that if the Universal continue working with Laura Miller, well, after because he had an overhaul, because he had the agreement with Sony Pictures. Yes, Project Hail Mary was hand distributed overseas by Sony Pictures because he had a Amazon NGM, the distribution of Project Hail Mary was produced, distribute that film. Um, because it had an overhaul global theatrical distribution agreement. So it was the first film was after the hunt. So yeah, but still, I hope the Archie was going to be a good film or a mediocre film. That I think the mostly after success like James Gunn's Superman movie and especially the Fantastic Four, the first test starring everyone's least favorite actor, the pretty much Hollywood heartthrob that is Jason Momoa, Jack Black, and Chris Pratt is Pedro Pascal. So yeah, we will see what happens. But if you know that, I hope this could be a successful. If Archie movie was going to be a more fun comedy drama film, in the veins like say the Breakfast Club or any other and recent or any other 80s comedy teen drama comedy films like you see the Brad Pack with had stars like Demi Moore, Ronnie, uh, Molly Ringhall, and Anthony Michael Hall, and all others. But I probably see the acting career was pretty much in the vein like that. So this is more like the 80s teen drama film, teen movies back in the day, like The Breakfast Club and The Sailor Almost Fire, and a lot of others. But we will see what happens. It's going to be in the vein like that. So it's going to be set in the 80s. I hope so, but we'll see. Tom King will might write, even can write because he's a terrible writer. And I'll like say, oh, he's a comic book writer, grabbed of Catholic Kid. You know the rest. But still, I'm excited what's going on. There's no word the casting director yet, and especially the director. There's no casting choices, and especially the director. So we'll see what happens. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. So yeah, I hope the Archie's comic, live action, or possibly might be doing the live action, or maybe doing the animated one, but who knows? But I'm not sure the director, but I'm not sure the live action director. I pick Greg Gulisi or rather the director Edgar Wright or even the or yeah or I know or some other or maybe the director of um the director of the or maybe John M.U. one must be rank to success of the Wicked movies, but I'm not sure he had equipment acted to direct another Warner Bros. Stuff, but still, we'll see what happens. So I'm not sure in the director yet, but I think Edgar Wright, or rather, um, 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 Alex Stroutman. Yeah, he's an unknown director who made a one film called Death on the Unicorn with Paul Rudd and Jenny Ortega. So I'm not sure the director or even the Daniels, like the director of the Everything Everywhere All at Once, might direct. So I'm not sure that the directing chair. So who knows? Maybe someday. Well, I didn't know that my Universal might direct a movie. So yeah, we will see what happens in the. And I know we'll need latest update news on in the coming months. So we'll see. So that's pretty much it of this video of the film and TV news. Thank you for watching. Also, shout out to Steve Jake, aka Jake Ali, who did a vidcast about the related of the pop culture stuff, and you can be subscribed and you'll occasionally doing live streams too. It might be returning. It already did with the Destin Bell live streams, my subscriber milestone. So be sure to subscribe to Studio Jake in the description, and also visit an ad website at studiojakemedia.subsite.com, and you can find all the perks on between on the topics on Studio Jake and their vidcast, and especially also buy your novels over these by my novels section, by my book section will be giving other buy an other novels over at Amazon.com and give it a 5-star review and even help you supporting small creators like Jacob. So hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you guys in my next video. Thank you for watching, and remember, as one once man was said, if you probably know the one joke from The Simpsons.
Stay out of Riverdale.
I agreed. All right, see you later.